The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Monday, the 9th of May, 2016, are currently trading with gold at $1,265.40 an ounce, silver $16.97 an ounce, Texas crude $44.66 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 464 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1754, the first newspaper cartoon appears in America. The Join or Die chopped up snake, created by Benjamin Franklin, encouraging the 13 colonies to unite against Great Britain. The Join or Die snake was first published in the Pennsylvania Gazette. Today in history. In recent news, Uber and Lyft ride-sharing services shut down their Austin, Texas operations this morning after Proposition 1, which would have barred the city from demanding fingerprint-based background checks as well as banning pickups in traffic lanes, failed in the voting booth. It appears opponents of Proposition 1 are in agreement that companies which do operate should have a stricter vetting process for drivers, along with emergency crews that were worried that they'll have to avoid pedestrians in mid-street pickups, not to mention the taxi cab union lobby who finds these ride-sharing services to be too much competition to handle. On the other hand, those in favor of Prop 1 not only included the hundreds of drivers who make a living from these services, but also the users of such ride-sharing services who will now have to pay significantly higher rates for a cab. The San Francisco-based company Twitter has informed its business partner, Dataminr, to cut off access for the CIA, NSA, and other government surveillance agencies from a feature that analyzes the service's entire feed. Twitter was concerned about appearing too cozy with the U.S. intel community. Dataminr is a 7-year-old company founded by Yale University students whose services use algorithms and geolocation data to discover news developments and behavior patterns. John Inglis, a former deputy director at the NSA, told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "I think it's a bad sign of lack of appropriate cooperation between a private sector organization and the government." Interestingly, just last week, Twitter lost a court fight in which it was seeking to release more details about the nature and number of U.S. surveillance orders it received about its users. The Lone Star Lowdown is currently looking for sponsors. If you have a product or a service you'd like to advertise with us, feel free to give me a call at 210-363-2257. This is Rick Rohde with your Lowdown for May 9th, 2016.
Somebody been shot, somebody's been abused, somebody blew up a building, somebody stole a car, somebody got away, somebody didn't get too far, yeah, they didn't get too far.
Grandpappy told my pappy back in my day, son, a man had to answer for the wicked that he done. Take all the rope in Texas, find a tall oak tree, round up all of them bad boys, hang them high in the street. For all the people to see.
That justice is the one thing you should always find. You gotta saddle up your boys, you gotta draw a hard line.
When the gun smoke settles, we'll sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon.
We'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, singing whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.
All right, folks, good evening. This is the Monday Night Rule of Law radio show with your host, Eddie Craig. It is, oh my, are we in May still? Yeah, May 9th, 2016. We go forward evermore, at least until we blow up or we get eradicated by our own leaders, and we let them get away with it. This past week has actually been a very good week. I had an excellent Friday, and the reason was I had a friend come to town that I've actually got to meet the first time face-to-face on Friday, and that was Dave Champion. He came down from Pahrump, Nevada, and worked on the movie project with us. We did his taping on Friday, and then he and I got to sit down and do a face-to-face for the movie as well, and then do our individual movie rants, so to speak, about things, what the producers are calling our calls to action. And hopefully the slated release date for this, at the moment, it was originally April 15th, tax day. But because of the content and just the amount of material that they've gotten, they can't really decide what's best to use, it seems. And so they're working that out. But what they're trying to do is get it released before the November elections, which would be great because some of the information that's going to be in this movie needs to be known before there's an election. And that's the facts. Now, I can't go into details about everything in the project and so on and so forth, but I did want to, if he's listening or anybody that knows him is listening, give a shout out to Dave and say thank you very, very much for coming down to Texas and participating in this project. It was a pleasure to finally get to meet you in person, and my privilege to do so. And I look forward to anything else that we get to do together, whether on this project or any other project. Dave is an excellent guy. If you don't know about Dave, you need to get on YouTube and find out about Dave Champion. Dave wrote the definitive book. I mean, Irwin Schiff knows everything you could ever hope to know about the income taxes as far as the case law and all that. Well, Dave wrote the book, literally, on the law associated with the income taxes and the case law, and combined the two into a 400-something page book that can tell you very clearly what the law actually is and why it does not and did not ever apply to you. Now, one of the biggest problems we have in this country today, or this union of states today, is that people have a real problem with putting forth any effort on their own behalf if they can let someone else do it for them. Doesn't matter whether it's working, and it especially seems not to matter when it's thinking. And that's a problem. The mess we're in is because that is the collective body of voters that you're having to contend with. Okay? And the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. You can look at those that are being given power and know they are not worthy of wielding that power. Used to, power was something that you were very careful about whose hands you put it in. Now, there are no checks and balances on who wields that power or how they wield that power in America anymore. And that's because you and I have set aside our duty to hold them accountable for doing that. We have allowed them to create the dictates that motivate them and control them rather than us. And that is a problem. So what are we going to do about it, folks? Well, part of the thing in this movie is to remind you about who we are, or at least who we're supposed to be. It's also to remind you of where we are and how we got there. And then it's to tell you, here's what we better do to fix it. Now, none of the people in this movie are oracles. None of them are experts in every given area of what needs to be changed. Everybody's got their opinions and their ideas. And, of course, it's the minutia that always seems to clog the gears of getting something done. But there's one other thing to remember about those gears. With enough force behind them, the minutia doesn't get in the way for long. So we find a way to grind it through and get it done because it needs to be done. Well, folks, we are at a stage in this country where what needs to be done is those that are serving in public office need to be looking at prison walls. It's not a maybe situation. It's not a, well, you can't say that about everybody. Yes, you can. It's just like what you can say about bad cop versus good cop. There are no good cops when no cop will arrest another cop for doing wrong, when no cop will prevent another cop from doing wrong, when they will not arrest those in their brotherhood that they know are doing wrong. You cannot tell me there are good cops. You just can't do it. Plus the fact that even to be a cop, you must take an oath to uphold every little declaratory edict by every little peonic bureaucrat that wants to meddle in everybody else's life and property and enforce it for them at the point of a gun or through death if necessary. Doesn't matter how immoral, how unjust, or unconstitutional that particular action or the alleged law behind it actually are, you'll do it because you want a paycheck. You'll do it because you're afraid you can't find a job. You'll do it and then try to make excuses that you're just doing your job and following orders. There are no good cops. There are no good politicians because they wouldn't want to be politicians. They would want to be public servants. We have allowed people to hold politics as a career, and that should never have been allowed to happen. Never. At the very least, every single public office should have a mandatory constitutional turnover. You cannot go from government job to government job. If you do, it must be with X number of years between those jobs in public service. You can't move from lieutenant governor to governor. You can't move from, sub-mayor to mayor. I don't care. You served in public office, you get X years, you're out for 10 years. You can't run for another public office until it's 10 years down the road. And you most certainly cannot go back into certain careers within that amount of time if you acted in the legislature, for instance. See, this thing about attorneys can serve in the legislature as long as they give up their bar card. No, don't agree with that at all. Because they're still officers of the court per their own law that they wrote while they were in the legislature. Then they go right back to benefiting as attorneys from the laws they created in the legislature. Attorneys should not be allowed to serve in public office of any kind. Any kind. And consider this. These people have completely taken over one department of government entirely. And when they tell you, well, it's not true, people don't have to be attorneys to be judges and things like that, baloney. Yes, they do. You wrote the law that makes it where they have to. The attorneys have seized control of the judiciary in every state of the union and created law without the benefit of the legislature to suit how they want things to run. No non-attorney can act in the judicial department of government. The people's government, folks, can act in any office of actual authority and the ability to create continuation of that authority through precedent in the judicial department. Only according to the statutes created by the attorneys when they served as legislators, only attorneys can serve as judges in courts of record. Only courts of record can set precedent. You see how this is working? The people have no control over an entire branch of their government. Shouldn't that be making you think? Shouldn't that be making you understand something is wrong? How did we get so asleep that we don't realize this is what has happened? How can you logically view the situation and see what's going on, and what it's going to be later, even if they're not in government, how they're going to benefit from it? It is ridiculous. But you got football to watch, right? What are we going to do about it, folks? What are you and I going to do to once again be in control of our own lives? To once again be able to look at a public servant and say, you work for me. You don't get to dictate what I do. The only time you get to tell me anything is if you can show that I've harmed another person or their property and they're complaining about it. Otherwise, your only job in relation to me and mine is to leave me alone. That's it. Nothing difficult about that. If you're going to come and try to steal my property, you're going to suffer the same thing any other thief trying to steal my property would. I don't care that you work for government. I don't care. You have no more right to take from me than someone in the dead of night sneaking from house to house has to take from me. I don't care what title you put on it. You do not get to create a law that gives you more right to do me wrong than I have right to seek redress for that wrong. But that's what the attorneys have done. And you have let them do it. By not knowing what's going on, not knowing what your Constitution limits them to, and not making darn sure that you're paying attention to make sure they stay within those limits. All right, folks, the phones are on. 512-646-1984. Give us a call. We'll be right back after this break.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
All right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio. Call in number 512-646-1984. All right. Now, back on the subject of Dave Champion, I did ask him if he would mind coming on the show with me one of these evenings, and he said that he would try to set up his schedule where he could do that. So in 2 or 3 weeks, maybe I'll be able to have him on as a guest, and I hope everyone will listen in and just join in the conversation. I don't know that he's ever done a show in this regard where he does anything other than just address issues by taking live questions and stuff, but we'll see what he thinks of the format and how much he likes to participate in it when he's on the air. Provided, of course, that we get around to doing that, because Dave's got a wealth of information. He is an extremely intelligent, dedicated individual. He has lots of background experience. He's an ex-Army Ranger. He is ex-law enforcement. He knows his stuff. And like I say, the book he wrote, Income Tax Shattering the Myths, which you can find at taxrevolt.us, will give you more information than you could ever hope to use on the income tax, but he does it in such a way that you will actually enjoy reading about it. He was kind enough to provide me with a copy of his book when he found out we were going to be doing the movie together. I already had a copy, but I had loaned that out to someone years ago and never got it back, so I'm glad that he sent me a replacement. But it's a great book, and you won't learn about the tax code any better than you will from that book, because he really breaks it down in a way that virtually anyone can understand it. If you can follow reason and logic and you can read, you should be set. The only thing we got to worry about is the first 2 issues. Most people can read, but very few actually can understand and comprehend what they read. So we have that to overcome, and hopefully we can get there with that. All right, folks, I still don't have any callers up on the board, despite the fact that normally I've got people waiting in line to want to get on here, but that's okay. Now, we also have the Sunday classes coming up. Michael Badnarik has moved back to Texas and is now permanently back here in Austin. And he has decided that he wants to come to the classes as regularly as he can. He came weekend before last, and then this weekend and next weekend, since he just got back, he is tied up getting other things accomplished to get settled back in. But once he does that, he's going to be down there quite regular. So if you never got a chance to meet Michael Badnarik, now would also be a good time to get that done, because he'll be in the classes quite a bit on Sundays. Now, he's already said that once he gets this information under his belt to the right degree that he feels comfortable that he can use it, he said the first thing he's going to do is get in his car and go tooling around town trolling for tickets. And I must say that's exactly the way I feel about it. When I'm able, that's what I do. But right now, we have the lawsuit that we're trying to get completed and filed and ready to be processed. And we've got a fundraiser going for that on GoFundMe. Now, I have no clue about GoFundMe and how to use it. I do not know how to find a particular project on GoFundMe to make a donation to it. So that being said, my blog site, I am going to put a link to the page to make the donation on my blog site, Tao of Law, TAOOFLAW.wordpress.com, where you can actually go to the GoFundMe and make a donation that way, or you can still do it the old-fashioned way and make a donation directly through the Donate to Eddie on the Logos Radio Network website. Either way works. The money's going toward, getting whatever I need to sustain the lawsuit and to, keep me going while I'm doing the lawsuit so that we can get this done. This needs to be done. I'm sick and tired of people having to call me because they're getting burglarized by the state, or I should say more like armed robbed by the state. We used to have highwaymen in this country that we called criminal because they would rob people that were traveling up and down the roads. Now we have employees that do exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. And no one bats an eye. And the odd part about it is instead of going to the king to complain and get, whatever justice you could by having them hunted down or whatever, that you had been robbed, this country now thinks it's okay that when you want to seek redress for being robbed, you have to go see the head of the robbery clan that took your money. Do you see any sense in that? Does that sound logical to you at all? A city of Austin municipal cop pulls you over at gunpoint, basically. He doesn't even have to point the gun at you because he's got a radio that makes it just as effective. And they've got all these prosecutors perfectly willing to make sure you're the bad guy no matter what the cop does during this stop. Even if he tries to kill you, if you fight back and win, they're going to charge you with murder. So pray that there's video. But they're going to come up And instead of actually taking the money directly out of your pocket there on the side of the road, which, by the way, they are setting up to do by letting you give them a credit card on the side of the road so they can scan it and steal the money right there. You get this? And in some of the northern states, it has already been that way for a long time. You can write a check or you can pay cash to the cop on the side of the road. You know that? But if you want to do something about it, who do you complain to? You have to go to the people in charge of that highwayman and say, he shouldn't have robbed me. I want my money back. And then they're going to look at you and go, well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a fair hearing on the matter and let you present your case. And if we agree with you, then we will take the money that we now have ourselves and we will give it back to you, no problem. No one sees a problem with that? No one sees how that's an issue? I mean, consider that fee that they charge you for court costs and that fine that they assess against you when it never applied to you anyway because you never were engaged in the only activity to which that fine relates. They take your money through the fines and the fees, and they get to keep part of that. They get to keep all of the fees, the court costs. So they generated money for themselves just by having you present and convicting you. Okay? Then they turn around and get to keep half of whatever the fine is. And the other half gets sent to the state, where your appeal has to go if you're coming from a court of record like you would be here in Austin. Now, do you see the predicament you're in here with this BS that they've cooked up? The cop works for the municipality who told him to go out and write these tickets. Does no one understand that? They then tell you to appear in the same court run by the same municipality that employs the cop. You understand that? The judge's paycheck and the prosecutor's paycheck, the two people against you in the courtroom, and the judge is against you. There is no fair and impartial. If you believe otherwise, you are seriously deluded or you're eating bad fish. Okay? They are stealing from you because you can't get a fair and impartial trial in this situation. Okay? Everyone that's coming against you has a profit motive in coming against you and keeping you guilty. And then if you're in a court of record and you seek an appeal, well, the state gets half of the fine, whatever that is, and you expect this process to change at that level. How? Because you're taking money back from them too. How much money? Collectively, across the state of Texas, $9 billion. Yeah, that's 9 zeros, folks. That's a B, folks. A year, folks, out of our pockets. Illegally. And we let them. All right, folks, 512-646-1984. We'll be right back after this break, so y'all hang on.
With all the immigrants begging to come to America, you'd think people who were born here would be counting their lucky stars. So why then are record numbers of Americans renouncing their U.S. citizenship? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back with the answer next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Last year, 1,800 Americans living overseas renounced their citizenship, a record number. Do these folks just hate our country? No, but they're fed up with burdensome tax laws. Most countries don't force citizens living abroad to pay federal taxes, but the U.S. does. In fact, since 2004, the government has hit Americans living overseas with steep fines and criminal charges, even forcing them to disclose information on spouses who are foreign nationals. It's high time the U.S. got off the backs of Americans living overseas, and come to think of it, the rest of ours too. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Yeah, I got a warrant, and I'm gonna serve them. to the head government them, prosecute them. Okay. Oh, sir. Citizens arrest for Mr. Bush. Citizens arrest for Dick Cheney.
All right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio, and we have a couple of callers up on the board, and our first one is Angie in Texas. Angie, what can we do for you?
Hi, I was just going to, I just recently started listening to you, and so I haven't heard your take on the camera red light tickets that get sent out randomly that have a return address in Arizona and a billing address in Ohio. It's not even in Texas.
That is all very true, and they're as unconstitutional as you can get, as they constitute nothing less than a bill of pains and penalties, because the way the Texas statutes set them up, you have no judicial remedy or recourse in challenging them. Absolutely none. That is the very definition of a bill of pains and penalties. Something that is either, it is defined as a legislative or administrative determination of guilt without judicial review. And that's exactly what these tickets are. Now, I've got several postings on my blog site relating to the red light camera tickets, including an updated version of the red light camera letter that you send in response to these things. Now, on that page with that new letter, there is a video where the Texas legislature is holding a hearing on this, and there are three police chiefs or deputy chiefs in that room trying to convince them not to do away with the red light camera program because they rely upon them for quote-unquote public safety, which is a complete crock. They're not there for safety, have never been there for safety. They're there for money. But what the legislative chairman tells them in that video, you need to pay attention to, because he is absolutely correct. They are not authorized by any law to issue a citation to anyone in a red light camera ticket. The statute is very clear that the municipality must file a lawsuit and sue for the $75. That's the only way they can collect that money. What they count on is with a 42-cent stamp to make a $69.58 profit, or I'm sorry, $74.58 profit, by getting you to mail it in without challenging it. That's what they do. It's fraud through the U.S. mail, making it a federal crime as well. But the red light camera system in every state stinks. It was never meant to protect the public. Never meant to protect the public. None of them are, actually. It doesn't really matter what the program is. It's not there to protect the public.
Okay, so I can go to your website and I can just...
Yes, at the bottom of that page, you will find a link to a file that you can download, and it is a copy of the red light camera letter that's been updated since the lawsuit against the red light cameras was filed by an attorney's firm in Fort Worth, Dallas area. He filed a lawsuit on behalf of a gentleman in Louisiana because of a red light camera ticket that was mailed to the gentleman in Louisiana, even though he had never been in Texas. The entire act is written to make the person who owns the car liable, even if that person was not the one in the car at the time of the alleged infraction.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing about that's constitutional.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Well, you're very welcome. And if there's anything more we can do, you now have the phone number.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, now we have Stephen in Texas. Stephen, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you were talking about. I had in Westlake.
Wait, Stephen. What kind of phone are you on?
I'm on a Android phone. Is it bad?
Yeah, you're reverberating real bad, like you're talking out of the bottom of a tin can.
Okay, I can try back.
Okay, if you'll do that, I'll get you back up as soon as I can get to you here when you return, okay? All right. While we're waiting on Stephen to reconnect, board is clear at the moment. So while I'm waiting on somebody else to pop up here, again, with the things that we have allowed our government entities to get away with and certain individuals within government to get away with, it's no wonder we're in such a mess. When a small group of people seize control of an entire government and then use the power of that government for their own ends, could you possibly think that there was going to be anything less than oppression that goes with it? You can't be self-serving and do the right thing. Who would have thought that's possible? Why would you think that was possible? If you were willing to do the right thing, then self-serving would not even be in the equation. What we have here is people that will do the right thing only if it benefits them in some tangible monetary or power garnering way. That's it. And we allow them to get away with it because we're not paying attention. All right, we had Stephen pop back up on the board here. Let's see if our connection's any better than it was. All right, Stephen, let's try it again.
Yeah, is it any better?
Nope, same thing. You're not on a headset or anything, are you?
No.
Okay, we'll see if we can't make do. Deborah's not going to like it, but let's try it anyway. Go ahead.
Well, I got a ticket for no license in Westlake, Texas, and I actually fought it, and I won. Basically, lack of jurisdiction. I was not operating a motor vehicle. I was using my personal conveyance, and I actually wanted it to go to jury trial. And 2 days before I went to jury trial, they dismissed it, and they said it was in the interest of justice. I kind of know why they did that. It's just because I was getting ready to make them look like fools and set a precedent, some case precedent in the matter.
Hey, never take credit for something someone does to themselves. The problem with these attorneys at any level is that they always believe they're smarter than you. They always think they know more than you. What they actually know, they would have to admit, is smoke and mirrors. And how they plan to use it, they would have to admit, is completely unethical, immoral, and oftentimes quite illegal. So the key is not to make them look like fools, is to get them in a position where that is what gets exposed if they continue. That is what will do it. And if you can get them in a position where that has been brought to the point of having to go into the record, they've already lost and they know it. Hence the dismissal. Because from what you're describing, let me ask you this. Did you go in there with a not engaged in transportation argument, or did you go in there with a right to travel argument?
Right to travel.
Okay. 99.9% of the time, that's going to backfire on you because that is not the correct defense. Okay? Because you're not being accused of violating a duty in relation to the right to travel, are you?
No.
No, you're being accused of a violation of a duty relating to engaging in a commercial activity for which your license applies, if you've got one.
Which I don't.
Right. But see, this is the problem they face with the way the statute in Texas reads. The statute in Texas does not create an offense for not having a license, thus driving while license invalid. It only creates an offense if the license was taken away for some reason and you're still doing it. That's the part they don't want you to know about or expose, but it's a fact. Plus the fact that the license that you're required to have, what they also don't want you to know is when you go down and fill out the little form to get that license, you actually have to commit 3 felonies to get a license in order to avoid being charged with a Class C felony misdemeanor. So the state has actually compelled you to commit higher crimes to avoid punishment for a lesser crime. You get that?
Yeah.
Because the 3 licenses they have, it is impossible for anyone permanently living in Texas over the age of 18 to get without falsifying a government document. Hang on just a second, and we'll pick this up on the other side. All right, folks, call in number 512-646-1984. Give us a call, and we'll continue all this when we get back. All right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio, and we are still talking with Stephen in Texas. All right, Stephen. Anyway, you get what I'm saying about that, why that normally was not going to be the way that it works? Every now and then you'll come across a small town that doesn't want to take the time out of their busy, we barely got enough money to survive, so we need to get this guy out of the way and get some more job.
Well, the question is, my question is, can they charge me again with that, even though it's...
It depends on how they dismissed it. If they dismissed it without prejudice, they can charge you with it for up to 2 years, yes, unless they had actually gotten to a point. Did they ever issue a signed and sworn complaint?
No.
Okay. Had they done that and then tried to prosecute after dismissing, you could have challenged them on double jeopardy. But because jeopardy never attached and they never got to trial, they have up to 2 years to refile that. If they did file a complaint, they've only got up to 5 months maximum, according to the way the Texas Supreme Court's ruled on speedy trial here, that they have up only 5 months after the filing of the complaint to prosecute the case, or they have denied you in a speedy trial.
Right.
So that's what controls the answer to your question. Which one of those situations exists?
Okay. Well, I will look into it further.
All right. Well, if they dismissed it, odds are they will not refile it. Okay. Odds are they won't. No one's ever brought back one of the cases I've gotten dismissed that way. They've never brought it back. Even though that they didn't do it with prejudice, they haven't brought it back. So odds are they're not. But at least it should give you an indication of what to be looking for and trying to get them to do. And do not expect what you did. I'm assuming this is, you said Lakeway, right?
Westlake.
Or Westlake. I don't know how big that court is there, how much business it does, but in most of these little municipalities around this area, that would have never gotten off the ground in there. So congratulations, but don't count on that working every time.
Okay, but can I be charged in? And since I beat the state of Texas, it was dismissed by the state of Texas.
No, it was dismissed by the prosecuting attorney who tells you that they're representing the state of Texas when they're actually not.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Okay. All right, anything else?
I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for calling in. Glad to hear it.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, now we're going to Ralph in New Hampshire. Ralph, what can we do for you?
Hey, Eddie. Got a speeding ticket.
Okay.
I found the case law, State versus Fitzgerald, that states it's a civil infraction. And I also found the RSA 265-67, which states there must be an accident to be charged with any speeding violation.
Absolutely, and that would be true in almost any state. In almost any state, there are prima facie speed limits, which means you've got two issues to fight the ticket on here. One is an illegal arrest, okay? And this is how we make this argument. If New Hampshire says that these are civil infractions, then there is no criminal activity, correct?
Correct.
If there is no criminal activity, by what mechanism of law did the officer obtain reasonable suspicion or probable cause to seize you without a warrant?
Okay.
Not a rhetorical question. Do you know?
No.
That's because there isn't any. He didn't have a warrant. There was no criminal activity. Therefore, there absolutely could not be reasonable suspicion or articulable probable cause to seize you. Not for a civil infraction. Okay? That makes the initial arrest illegal, unconstitutional on its face. Oh, you weren't arrested, you were detained. This is the reason why the transportation script tells you to ask them, are you free under arrest or are you free to go? Once you establish that you cannot leave of your own volition, you're in a custodial arrest. Okay?
I did find the RSA that states the same thing pretty much. In order for them to detain or arrest anybody, it states they need to...
Right. Even to detain, they have to have criminal activity. So when he says that I detained you, I didn't arrest you, so what? So what? That's just as illegal as putting me in cuffs for no reason. That makes not only the arrest illegal, that makes his search and seizure of your person and information illegal and thus inadmissible under the fruit of the poison tree doctrine.
There's also some confliction with the citation. He stated there was no license presented, but on the actual complaint, it says that that's how he ID'd me, was through my driver's license.
Right. Which means, did you give him the information?
No, I didn't give him a license at all.
Okay. Well, what they did was they pulled up your name in the computer and saw that you had one. And whoever did the complaint got it from that. Okay, so the officer's not lying then, is he?
I guess not.
And then neither would the person that signed the complaint, unless you're saying the officer's the one that signed the complaint, is the affiant. Is he?
Yeah.
He is the one that signed it?
Citation?
No, I'm not talking about the citation now.
But he didn't sign the citation either. He didn't. It was only half completed.
Okay, but I'm not asking about the citation. You said on the complaint it says they got your name off your driver's license. Who signed the complaint as the affiant?
It's not at the lock.
It's what?
I'm not sure. I don't have it with me right now.
Okay, well, check it. If it was the officer, now you've got the officer in conflicting facts. That's another problem for them. If it's not the officer, then whoever put that information on there most likely did look up your license and get the information from that. Now, on my blog site, the taooflaw.wordpress.com, that's TAOOFLAW.wordpress.com. I have a post up there, and I'll tell you what the title of it here is. At least I thought I was going to tell you what the title is. Hang on just a second. Well, I guess that's not going to work the way I want it to. All right, I have to log back into it here when I get it. For some reason, it's not letting me log in. But anyway, on there is an article talking about civil infractions. If your state has civil infractions, okay? In that, down at the... You did read it? If you did, down at the bottom, there are 7 specific interrogatories, okay? You need to file those along with a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction and lack of evidence, okay? Make sure that these are filed under special appearance. You reserve the right of special appearance to challenge the jurisdiction of the court and move to dismiss for lack of said jurisdiction on these grounds. And they have an issue with unlawful search and seizure. They have an issue with fruit of the poison tree and inadmissible evidence. And they have the issue of detaining under a civil infraction, which is illegal. Got it?
All right.
Now, there's also an article on the blog dealing with fruit of the poison tree and understanding the doctrine. You need to read that in conjunction with those 7 interrogatories.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay.
I think that's all my questions.
All right. Well,
I appreciate your help. Thanks.
Yes, sir. No problem. Thanks for calling in. All right. Now we have Dave in Delaware. Dave, what can we do for you?
Regarding the movie that you and Dave Champion are going to be in.
Yes, sir.
The Constitution says that Congress shall coin the money and regulate the value thereof. And Congress is not doing it. It does not say Congress shall rent the nation's money supply at interest from a private for-profit corporation.
I agree with you.
What they have done, well, the United States Supreme Court has ruled in a case titled Synar, S-Y-N-A-R, U.S. Representative Mike Synar versus Bowsher, B-O-W-S-H-E-R, who was at that point in history the head of the GAO, Government Accounting Office or Accountability Office. And the United States Supreme Court said in that case that Congress, being a legislative branch agency, does not have authority to delegate to an executive branch agency, such as a GAO, a constitutionally mandated responsibility.
I absolutely agree.
I do, and no one has made the comparison that if they cannot do it with the GAO, they also cannot do it with the Federal Reserve Corporation.
Correct.
For some strange reason, every time a state's...
What year was that case in?
...creates a case, the guy dies, or they...
Oh, wait, Dave. What year was that Supreme Court case in?
Whatever year the Bowsher was the head of the GAO.
Well, that's not answering my question. There's a reason I'm asking that question. See if you can find what year it's in, and we'll talk about that on the other side, okay? You look that up while we're at break.
I don't have enough time. It's back in the...
Well, you got 4 minutes.
All right, I'll try.
All right, folks, this is Rule of Law Radio, 512-646-1984. We'll be right back after this break.
It's all according to the will of the Almighty. I read his book and he says he cares not for the unsightly. These warmongers come by that term rightly.
right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio, and we are still talking with Dave in Delaware. Dave, were you able to locate what year that case was in? Hello, Dave. All right. Well, I guess Dave didn't find the year that it was in and is not there any longer. All right. Let's see. I do not know who the other caller here is. It just says Dallas, Texas. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Just say yes. Okay. Someone with area code. All right, and they just suddenly disappeared. Okay. Well, in that case, let's go to Tommy in Texas. At least he's got a name. Tommy, what can we do for you?
Hey, Eddie. Thanks for taking my call. I've got an upcoming first appearance in Alto, Texas, which is Cherokee County.
Oh, I know where Alto is. It's not far from home. It's 12 miles outside, or 21 miles outside of Nacogdoches.
Well, on State Highway 21, which is a rural highway, 2-lane, no shoulder, I was lit up by the DPS, and I had to travel about 5 miles before I found a safe place to pull over. By that time, I was reaching the outskirts of Alto, if they have outskirts, and I found a place to pull over, and there was a Suburban up ahead with his lights on blocking the highway. And as I pulled over, I had 3 other cop cars pull up and surround my car. And the whole time they turned the sirens on saying, pull over on the loudspeaker. And I'm like, I turned on my flashers like you said, and I slowed down, and I finally found a place to pull over 5 miles down the road. And he asked me to get out of the car, and I refused to do so. I rolled my car window down 2 inches. And, well, he was threatening me with evading.
Which they like to do, but they know darn good and well you have a right to seek a safe place to pull over. They have no right to endanger you by forcing you to pull over on a road with no shoulder, which 21 in that area absolutely does not have.
And it's not even considered urban because there's no businesses or houses less than 100 feet apart.
Right.
So it was rural. And he ended up just giving me a speeding ticket for 72 and a 60. And I had told him up front, I'm not engaged in commerce, and we argued back and forth on a couple of different points.
Which agency was this?
DPS trooper.
Okay.
So, anyways, what he ended up putting on the citation was, and he was pretty upset because I signed it under threat, duress, and coercion. And the only reason I ended up giving him my license and my insurance is because I was on my way to meet my son, who's in a structured visitation program, and so I didn't want to be. So I relented and gave him the information he requested, and I told him it was under threat, duress, and coercion that I was giving it to him because I was not engaged in commerce. So the citation says speeding 10% or more above posted speed, and then it says Texas Transportation Code 545.351 and 352. And so the court clerk refused to give me a copy of the citation given to her by the DPS trooper, and also refused to give me a copy of the verified complaint. And the judge told her to tell me that they would forward my request to the county attorney, and she told me to stop calling.
Nope. File judicial conduct complaints against the judge and file a motion to disqualify. Those records are 100% public, and they have no right whatsoever to refuse access by anyone. Anything in that record can be copied by anyone that wants it.
They don't believe that is true.
I don't care what they believe. I'm telling you what the act says. File a judicial conduct complaint. File an open record. File a Public Information Act complaint with the Attorney General's office on top of that.
Okay. Yeah, my first appearance is this Friday.
File a motion to disqualify, and that will change.
Okay, and I did have that program on my phone that you had suggested, the record all your phone calls program or app. So I've got it all on recorded. Her telling me this. Her boss, Judge Johnson, said he will forward my request to the county attorney and stop calling.
Okay. Then what you need to do is make a copy of that recording in some easy-to-access fashion, preferably an audio CD, and you will send that along with your complaint, certified mail, to the Attorney General's office, stating that this particular court and judge feels that they have the power to refuse to produce public records in compliance with the Public Information Act, and that the county attorney is aware of their refusal and is in complicit conspiracy with them to deny public access to those records. kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Because I called the county attorney and told him what was going on, and I tried to get him to say that the judge had talked to him about it already to get him caught up in ex parte also. But he said no, and no, they're not breaking the law, and that was that. So
they absolutely are breaking the law. They are absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so I go up there this Friday. And I've already faxed them a request. I don't have a case number. All I have is a citation number. So I faxed them a request, and I got her to date stamp it and send the date stamp request back, fax it back to me. So I do have that, so that they do have my request on file.
Okay.
So I'm not sure I'm going to file all my motions when I go there on Friday. She's probably going to jump 6 feet in the air, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Well, like I say, file a motion to disqualify, and there's nothing they can do. They have to cease and desist. This is a municipal court or a JP court?
It's a JP court.
Okay, yeah, just file a motion to disqualify, and without them even being involved in it, go ahead and forward that. While you're in there that day, say, I need the mailing address and name of the head judge for this district. Well, why do you need that? Because I am forwarding them a copy of the motion to disqualify this judge and a copy of the judicial conduct complaints against this judge, and I need to know how to get this to them because I'm not trusting you people to do it.
Okay, and the judicial complaint goes to the Texas Supreme Court?
No, to the Texas Judicial Commission.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was trying. That's what I was searching for, yeah. Okay, I will do that. And I should turn all this stuff in person, right? Or do I need to, or can I just send it in certified mail return receipt requested?
Yeah, you want it return receipt requested. You want to make sure that you have proof they received it and they can't deny that they received it.
But for the first appearance, I need to appear there in person, right?
Doesn't matter. You still you can take one in there and hand deliver it, but you still want a certified mail copy.
Oh, to that justice court.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I'll do that. I'll draw that up tonight or first thing in the morning and have it sent off tomorrow.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay. That's all I got for you, Eddie. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You have the seminar material, I take it?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. When was the last time you got updates on it?
It's been about 8 months.
Okay. Nothing's changed as far as documents in that regard, so you should be good then.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Eddie.
You're welcome. Have a good one and good luck, man. And just email me if you got questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, you have a good day.
Have a good day.
All right, we're going to try once more to see if Dave in Delaware is there. Dave, are you there? Dave in Delaware.
Yes.
All right, what do you got?
I don't have it. I'll have to look it up on the internet tomorrow and send you an email about it.
Okay. All right, that'll be fine. The reason I'm asking is because if they're ignoring it, it makes me wonder if the case is pre-1934. Because for some reason, the judicial system suddenly decided that it doesn't have to honor any Supreme Court case that predates 34. And I'm not sure how they came to that conclusion that they could do that, but it's what they're doing. That's how they get away with the income tax convictions they get, because they deny the admissibility of the cases that predate 34 that prove that what they're doing is illegal.
We just have to figure how to point out that there's no distinction between the GAO or the Federal Reserve. It's an executive agency, and Congress has said...
I got a simpler solution. It's just...
Cannot do it.
I got a simpler solution than trusting those that have already done you wrong with actually changing their mind to do you right. My personal consensus on this is, instead of going through the system that refuses to do the right thing, and we know it refuses to do the right thing because it's got its own butt to cover and cares less about you and me, what we need to do is be able to point over to the shade of the nearest oak tree and show them the silhouette of the bodies from yesterday.
Well, I personally am willing to sign a sworn under penalty of perjury notarized signature affidavit that Congress is committing treason by...
Yeah, but who are you going to give it to? That's the question. A signed piece of paper is a great thing if you need to start a fire. But without someone willing to act on it, what good does it do you?
It says if two people sign sworn affidavits, that's enough.
No, that's not what it says.
An inquiry.
What it says is that there must be two witnesses to the act. Doesn't say anything about them requiring to do an affidavit. There has to be two witnesses willing to swear to they saw the act personally. Now, that, of course, in today's world is completely moot, considering that they commit their crimes on TV in front of millions.
Well, they've committed it in front of me, and I'm willing to sign an affidavit and go to Congress about it.
Yeah, but that's the point.
One more person.
That's the point. Who are you going to get to act upon it? Even if there are 2 or 200 or 2,000, who are you going to get to act on it? Congress themselves can't act on it other than just changing the law. The courts won't act on it because they're in on it, as is Congress, which is why they won't change the law. See, Congress knows all these problems exist. Congress doesn't care, because if they cared, it would have been a very simple job for them to come together and say, why don't we keep creating new laws when we haven't dealt with the old problems that everybody's complaining about? Why don't we fix those first?
They don't obey the existing laws.
Bingo! So I'll ask again, your affidavit is going to accomplish what? It'll make you feel better, but after that, then what?
It's President Trump or anarchy in the streets.
Well, I'm not so sure Trump isn't going to continue the status quo regardless of what he tells you. But let's find out. Anyway, folks, hang on. Dave, anything else? If not, we'll be right back. Hang on if you do.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
Ain't gonna blind me. Don't fool me. Well, ain't gonna fool me with that same old trick again. I was blindsided, but now I can see your plan. You put the fear in my pockets, took money from my hand. Ain't gonna fool.
All right, folks, we are back, and it would appear that Tommy has called back in. Tommy, what do you got?
Eddie, thanks for taking my call again. I had a follow-up question that I forgot to ask you,
okay,
and it's really bugging me. Regarding the DPS trooper threatening to charge me with felony evading, can they come back and try to charge me with that?
They can always try to come back and do anything, but what you need to be doing is getting your hands on a copy of the video. And if you follow through with anything else, always file the motions that are in the thing under special appearance. They're going to deny special appearance and all that, but don't ever stop demanding it. Even in your motion for discovery, make sure it says that you're doing it under special appearance. But in your motion for discovery, you're going to demand copies of the audio and video from the police cruiser and the cop's body mic and camera, and all the other ones that are there as well.
Okay, and request copies of the radio conversations.
CAD reports, radio dispatch recordings, communications recordings, everything. Go through that, transcribe them, make notes, cross-reference those notes, because odds are, even though they may cease and desist on going after the speeding ticket, it'll be there for you to defend yourself with later or to possibly sue them with now. Because the DPS very clearly in the Texas Administrative Code, as an administrative agency, the Administrative Code says very clearly their authority and mission is limited to commercial and for-hire traffic. That's exactly what they're there for. That's the only thing their regulatory programs apply to.
Okay. Now, I did not in your seminar material. Does it list all the radio, and I can't remember exactly what you said when I requested radio transmissions and such. Is that in your?
There are several different motions for discovery and public information requests. You can use each one of those to gather the information you need into a single motion.
Right.
There's a folder on there called Getting Your Records. Okay. And it's got a whole bunch of PIRs in it.
Okay, and it does list the different...
It lists each thing you're asking for in the public information request. It's easy enough to copy that out and put it into the motion for discovery.
I guess what I'm asking is, does it contain... Because I can't remember what you just said as far as the radio transmissions and the stats or the something, and then...
Radio, okay.
Recordings.
Dispatches, communications, contact, or in-contact communications, which is when they're pursuing you or they're dealing with you. They'll be communicating back and forth on the radio. That traffic is all recorded.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Now, you also want the hard copy CAD reports, okay, which is the computer-aided dispatch. They'll be in the same place as the place you get the audio recordings from. But you also want the audio and video from the officers themselves and their cars.
Mm-hmm, okay. Okay, that's what I needed. Perfect. Okay, Eddie. That's all I needed.
Okay.
I feel better now. Thanks.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Bye. All right. Now we have Mike in Texas. Mike, what do you got?
Hey, Eddie. I got a traffic ticket down in Beaumont, Texas, and when I went to the arraignment and pointed out that the ticket didn't meet 708-105 of the Texas Transportation Code, and he just pretty much blew me off and told me that he knew his tickets were legal, and the judge did. So anyway.
Wait.
Back for
the judge. I'm sorry. Tell me what the judge said again.
I said I challenge subject matter jurisdiction because it didn't meet 708.105 of the Texas Transportation Code, and he just went, I know my tickets are legal. And I said, you don't want to look at the proof? And I tried to hand him a copy of that part of the statute, and he said, no. I'm just going to say that you pled not guilty. And
okay, what did you do in response to that?
I did nothing yet.
What do you mean nothing yet?
Well, wait, let me finish. So I went to go and meet with the prosecutor, and which was a couple of months later.
Was the prosecutor not present in the courtroom?
No, not at that time. That was just the arraignment, so she wasn't there. It was just the judge and the bailiff and the court people.
Okay.
So I showed it to her, and which she had to take a copy of my transportation code because funny she didn't have one, although she's prosecuting the Texas Transportation Code. And then she went and she took it before the judge because she told me that she is not allowed to dismiss a case without permission from the judge, which I found.
That's true. The statute is specifically written that way. They get to decide whether or not to prosecute if they have the evidence. But see, the problem here in this particular case, that would not be true because the prosecutor can move to dismiss for lack of evidence. If they can't introduce the citation, they have no evidence.
Right.
He was charged with. Well, what was he charged with on? All he was charged by complaint. Did he ever get a ticket? No. Why didn't he get a ticket? Well, because all of our tickets are illegal. You see how that would play out?
What she did? Yeah. So she did go to the judge without me, which I guess, I don't know if that's ex parte meeting.
It absolutely is. But then so was yours if you started arguing those things with the judge on that at that hearing.
Oh, okay. But they did dismiss the case based on that, which I was really surprised.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. They're required to dismiss it. The officer cannot pull you over so he can issue something that's illegal.
Right.
But that's exactly what virtually every municipality in Texas does. That's what every county sheriff's department or constable does. The DPS is the only agency that can change their tickets electronically through that electronic pad they use. And they can actually change type sizes by updating the firmware in that pad. But not everyone has those updates because some DPS tickets do it correctly and some do not. But there are actually 2 different clauses in the Transportation Code that's required to be on those tickets a very specific way. And 708.105 is only one of them. The other one deals with a statement, a notice that's required to be on there in relation to financial responsibility. Most of them do not have that on there correctly either.
Well, I just wanted to let everybody know I learned that from you. And if you stick to your guns and read the Texas Transportation Code, you can beat these.
Well, I appreciate you letting everybody know that. Yeah, folks, that's one of the first things I brought up to people. What this is, every citation in Texas just about is illegal. Austin's been aware of this for years now, and they still haven't changed their tickets. And I have yet to see anything other than a DPS ticket that has complied.
Wow. All right, well, I appreciate it, Eddie. I love your show.
All right, thank you, Mike. I'm glad that we got it done for you, and you were able to use it effectively.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, 512-646-1984. I got a half an hour to go, and that was my last caller in this segment. So we got 2 more of those to go, and I'd like somebody else to talk to. If you're out there and listening in, please give us a call. But while we're waiting on someone to do that, I am glad Mike called in and gave us his experience and said that he did well. I've also gotten notice that there have been several other successes lately that have been fighting their tickets, and we managed to get those dismissed as well. They've been notifying me either by email or on Facebook. And it's nice to know that people are paying attention and that they're standing their ground and not letting these corrupt little bureaucracies continue their roadside theft. Because that's all this is, folks. If you didn't listen to the beginning of the show, you need to get the archive and do that. because this is nothing more than a gang of highwaymen that have been organized to steal from the people illegally in an unconstitutional form of taxation that none of us approved and ever got to vote on. All right, folks, y'all hang on. Call in number 512-646-1984. We'll be right back.
We all know smoking is bad, but new evidence shows babies whose fathers smoked around the time of their conception have an increased risk of developing childhood cancer. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back with details in a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Smoking kills. It's no secret, and we've all heard the health warnings. But did you know that tobacco could also kill your unborn child? Australian researchers found that although mothers smoking did not increase their children's risk of getting cancer, kids whose fathers smoked around the time of their conception were more likely to develop acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or ALL, the most common form of childhood cancer. And the more dad smoked, the greater the risk. If dad smoked a pack a day, his baby was 44% more likely to be diagnosed with the disease. So papas, consider what you're doing to your unborn kid before you light up. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Bay.org. You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
Yeah, who you want to chip? Who you take me for? Free toilet? Who you want chip? Me no free toilet. You can't chip me. How am I say? Don't let them chip you in the morning, chip you in the evening. Put a chip in your body. And anyway you go computer ready. You can't hide me from nobody. When me say, chip in your mom, chip in your daddy.
All right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio. Call in number 512-646-1984. Got a half an hour to go, and we got a couple people up on the board now. First one up, Mark in Florida. Mark, what can we do for you?
I just thought I'd give you an update, Eddie, since I talked to you last week and told you that I had a court date allegedly scheduled that I had no notice on. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, the update is there is 2 KPS warrants out for me. One has a $100 bond. That was the case that I didn't go to jail for, so there was no bail. The other one that I had a $100 bond, the KPS has a $1,000 bond on it.
Okay.
So I've taken screenshots of the clerk of court's record, showing that there was no notice ever sent, no notice in the record. And I've done that on my laptop and phone both. I've had a couple of people witness the clerk's website with me, and as soon as I get some documents done that I want to file, I'm wanting to get a copy of the file when I go to the clerk's office. Any other advice you can give me on this subject?
Yeah, don't get caught. At least not until you've got what you need to have your ducks in a row.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I'm a little leery about traveling around by motor, but being very careful right now.
Yeah, don't blame you.
I read an interesting statute today that listeners in Florida will be interested in hearing, and this may apply in other states. You'll have to check your local state statutes. They have a Sunday clause in the Florida statutes that you cannot be served any documents, warrants, or anything, no service of process on Sunday. And it's a very short paragraph. It's in plain English. And it says, in essence, if you are served on Sunday, it is void. It says that word for word. And you have a civil remedy against the person as if the document never existed. Do they have that in Texas?
I'm not sure I understand. I'm following what you're talking about.
A process server of any type.
Yeah, anyone in Texas can be a process server as long as they're over the age of 18 and not a convicted felon and not a member of not a party to whatever it is they're serving notice of.
Well, what I'm saying is service cannot be done on Sunday.
Okay.
It's forbidden.
All right. I don't know that we've got a forbidden time frame here in Texas. I don't recall ever seeing anything that said we did. Just who can do the service. Generally, constables do service of process here. City marshals will do it on occasion for city issues, but I don't know that they're limited to only certain days of the week.
Yeah, it surprised me when I found that. I thought if I do go out to get arrested, I'm going to make myself public on Sunday.
Well, now the thing is notice or service is one thing. Arresting on a warrant has no day limit.
It's the first part of this says service or execution on Sunday of a writ, process, warrant, order, or judgment is void. And the person serving or executing...
Well, you better see if it qualifies the type of warrant.
Well...
Don't assume that it's a blanket statement regarding all warrants. Look and see if it gives any qualifications anywhere else in that chapter or code in relation to what is void on Sunday. Because I don't really see that they're going to void a felony arrest made on a Sunday with a warrant. They might, because the law says so, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that if I were you.
Well, the history of this law, it looks like the first history of it is November 23rd, 1828.
Yeah, well, find a case law that has done what you're talking about doing, voiding it, and see if they agree.
Okay. It was just a curious little quirk I came up with.
Yeah, well, go to your state law library or something like that, and just have the law librarian help you look up the case law relative to that statute and trace it back.
Okay. All right. I just called in because I tuned in just before the other caller got off. I heard you say you didn't have a caller, so I figured I'd call in.
Well, we appreciate it, as always.
And you got another guy on, so I'll let you go.
All right, sir. You have a good one. Thank you.
You too.
All right, now we're going to go to Eric in California. Eric, what do you got?
Hey, I wanted to update you. I talked to you last week concerning their request that I file the minutes of the clerk's office after the arraignment. And you were telling me that my failure to do so could be a felony. So I just wanted to update you about that. I took it back to the clerk's office and handed it to them, and they looked at it, and then I asked them a question about the status of the case, and I asked them again about the jury trial, but then they just handed it back to me and said I didn't need to file it. There was no mention ever of the fact that I didn't turn it in on the day. So,
okay, be very careful about taking back an official document when they do that.
Yeah.
Be very careful, because that right there could be a complete setup.
Right, okay. Well, nothing came of it, thank God.
That you're aware of yet.
I guess so. Well, my question for you now is the court date is on the 24th, and I just want to know how to approach that. Should I focus on the interrogatory that I had filed and the motion that I filed?
Absolutely. Don't let them do an in run and tell you it's irrelevant or ignore it, because they absolutely have no grounds to ignore a lack of jurisdiction because of an illegal seizure. Now, I'm going to assume that you were listening beforehand and you heard what I told the person earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. That applies to you as well.
Right, okay. Now, what do I say to them if they say it's irrelevant? Do I object?
You absolutely object.
Okay.
And you demand their supervisor, because remember, this is not a judge in California. You're not dealing with a judge. Most likely you are dealing with a court clerk that's been given a new title to sit in and steal your money.
That's true.
Okay? So they can't hold you in contempt. They can't do any of that. But what you can do is demand that they follow the law. And if they won't do that, then they have no immunity for what they're doing, and you're going to have their ass.
Right. So if they say that and I object, what's the grounds for the objection? How do I word that?
Objection. Do you intend to comply with state law and the rules of evidence and my rights or not?
Okay.
Now, remember, I take that back. Since this is an entirely administrative proceeding, the rules of evidence aren't actually going to apply. At least that's the way they've interpreted here in Texas. But that is for the purpose of an examining trial. No, actually, that's correct. I've got that backwards, I think. No, that is correct. In an examining trial or an administrative proceeding, the rules of evidence aren't going to apply.
Why do you call it an administrative proceeding? Is it because it's a civil infraction?
Because this is not a judge. It can't be anything but administrative when no one is acting in a judicial capacity.
Okay.
If there is no actual, it doesn't even matter if the person that's sitting there at some other time in their day, they are a real judge. For the purposes of this proceeding, they are not a judge if it's administrative. They're not, because a judge is a judicial functionary, and they don't function in administrative proceedings.
Okay.
All right. So, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in, and I'll take the next caller when I get back off this break. Appreciate you, Eric. Thanks. All right, folks, we'll be right back, so y'all hang in there.
Easy.
Not wage any battle, would your purpose have be done? Such a sentiment, a soldier, a warrior of love, scuffling to keep the peace. All it's taken is a misunderstanding. If somebody calls the police, watching the spotlight.
All right, folks, we are back. This is Rule of Law Radio, and we are going to Pat in Texas. Pat, what can we do for you?
Hi, Eddie. Long time no hear.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. It's a little dry out here in West Texas.
I can imagine.
A couple of things. Number one, you had a caller earlier, and you were talking about that split in 1934 in what they call relevant and what's not relevant on a lot of judicial decisions. Presidential Proclamation 2039 happened on March 6th, 1933. It was the proclamation that put the United States into an emergency declaration and called out martial law basically because of a bankruptcy that happened in 1932 that Congress declared. That didn't have any congressional support. There was no law there to back it up, so they passed the Emergency Bank Relief Act after a 2-hour session of Congress on March 9th, 1933, and Presidential Proclamation 2040 immediately, which was identical to 2039, was read on the radio airwaves. And that's what got the change to the Trading with the Enemies Act, Section 5B, from 1917, to allow the federal government to confiscate everybody's gold by declaring all U.S. citizens belligerents and enemies of the state.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that presidential proclamation had no effect outside of the executive branch of government. That's the thing.
Thank you.
The proclamations and the other things the president signs off on are not law. They don't have any binding authority upon anyone except those that work in government in the executive department as functionaries of that department. So when he declared them enemy combatants, he declared his entire department enemy combatants, but he didn't declare the people enemy combatants.
Thank you, but we, in general, are being treated as such.
Well, but they made themselves our enemy. We're not the enemy, but they made themselves our enemy, and then they go out and prove that every day.
Oh, tell me about it. You know, I'm still facing this. That second attorney I hired, he quit.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it myself. But that was the tipping point. That's why they say that the judicial decisions don't matter before and after. You know, that's where that date comes in. Also, they have a compact signed by all the governors from that time, the 48 governors. It took them 3 years to get everybody to sign off on, and that's where you get the League of Governors.
Mm-hmm. The League of Criminals, you mean?
Federalism, yeah. Extended federalism into the many states. And that's where the term in the state actually comes from.
Right.
And we both know what that means.
Yes, we do.
I wanted to ask you, do you still have Mike Handel's contact info?
I do.
Could you send me an email with it, please, kind sir? I'm trying to get a hold of him.
Sure.
He's got some information on the international traffic inspection certificates that the traffic cops all are required to have on them after completing a 35-hour course. And none of them do.
Right.
But that's just one of those little things. That's a nitpicky type thing.
Okay.
And if you could shoot that to me, I would appreciate it very, very much.
Yes, sir. Will do.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Says hi.
Well, tell her I said howdy back, and y'all be good and be careful and good luck.
Yeah, we're keeping our heads down.
Good idea.
They haven't killed us yet.
Well, it ain't too long before they're going to start looking for the lot of us, Pat, and you know that.
I already know that. I'm on the red list. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference to me anymore. You know that.
I wouldn't be here if it did to me either. It's just you got to do what you got to do, regardless of the risk at some point.
Yeah. Just full speed ahead. Godspeed, senor.
Yes, sir. You have a good night, and thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Now we're going to go to Bryden in Texas. Bryden, what can we do for you?
Hey, Eddie. I was trying to clear something up with your call screener regarding the constitutional challenge to subject matter jurisdiction. Can you use that on retro cases? And if so...
What do you mean retro?
Retro case? Well, cases that, that I've already got a ticket.
Yeah, the thing about a constitutional challenge is it raises a jurisdictional challenge issue. Subject matter jurisdiction can be challenged at any time, past, present, or future. So technically speaking, yes.
Okay. I remember you saying that before on a previous show. And so are there certain cases that you would not be able to do that in?
Well, you can't do it in any case where you can't rely on something that would allow you to challenge jurisdiction after the fact.
Okay. I see. Also, regarding I've been trying to get my schedule changed so I can take part in your class on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
On average, what does it take for somebody on average, say, to get a good grasp on the...
Well, I've learned one thing in teaching this class, Bryden, and I don't mean to make it sound like I'm trying to belittle your question. I'm not, but please understand, there is no way for me to answer that because there is no average. And the reason there isn't is because even if you can pick it up intellectually, that doesn't mean you can use it properly when you need to. It takes a varied set of skills, and it takes a little while to develop those skills to see if you actually have them.
Right.
So there is absolutely no way I can gauge that just by telling you, on average it takes this long, because it varies for everyone, and I do mean everyone.
Sure.
It's one of those things why I keep saying there are only a handful of actual real trial attorneys in the entire country that are good. And that's because they are one of those very, very few that can actually do what they have to do at trial.
Yeah.
Everybody else is a paper-pushing attorney. They can do all the prep work, the research, and the writing, but they cannot get up in a courtroom and win a case.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, have you seen A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Demi Moore and Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
All right. You know why they sent Tom Cruise in there, right?
Well, they sent him in there.
Why they sent him in as the attorney?
I can't remember that.
Because Demi Moore wanted to be the attorney. And even though she knew everything she needed to know, as her commanding officer put it, all intelligence and book smarts, but no street smarts.
Yeah, he was a performer, I guess.
Yeah. So the reason Tom Cruise got the case was because Demi Moore could never have won it and defend it by defending them.
Right. Well, that makes sense totally. I know you're only on Mondays, but man, we sure would like to hear you on a couple other nights too.
Well, I appreciate that. And I used to be on 3 nights a week, but that sure got to where it ate into an awful lot of time to get anything done on a personal basis or any other basis.
Right. Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, and I sure enjoy your show. I've turned some people on, so.
Well, I appreciate that too.
I know it's getting close to time, so.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, man.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. We got Terrence in Florida. Alan, I don't know if I can get to you, but I'm going to try. Terrence, what do you got?
Oh, just real fast. You was talking about a guy that wrote a tax book at the beginning of the show.
Dave Champion.
What is the name? Okay.
And the name of the book is Income Tax Shattering the Myths, and it can be ordered at taxrevolt.us or taxrevolt.us.
Okay. And can you talk him into narrowing it down to, say, 150 pages instead of 400?
Absolutely not, because he has to cover every single argument the IRS tries to use to get you caught up in what they do, and everything he's put in that book is imperative to defending yourself. Dave's a highly intelligent guy. If he could have distilled it down any further and made it effective, he would have.
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's reasonable. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Well, it looks like my other caller dropped off the board here. All right. I got a minute and a half left, so I want to say thank you, everybody, for calling in and for listening. If I actually have any listeners out there besides those that called in, who knows? Luck may be with me, and people actually will listen to the show from time to time. In any case, this has been one of those nights where the call to action is loud. The call to action is necessary because we are being too inactive in taking control of our own lives and our own country. We have to change that. We have to fix that. Get educated. Get motivated. Get up. Get out. Get going. Get together. And let's change America back to the better vision it was intended for. We don't have to go back to the good old days. We don't have to go back to where we are now. Let's go for the vision of what we were supposed to be able to become instead. I don't want to regress. I want to progress, but I want to do it the way we were intended to do it, free as individuals. All right, folks, I hope y'all have a great and blessed week. Good night, and God bless.
Like a stepping razor, don't you watch my size?